All right, we are live. What is good? Welcome to episode 95 of Player Life. Today we have Sterling Cooper, the porn actor, and we're just going to talk about some, how Sterling got into that industry and some other things. So give yourself a brief introduction there.
We can talk about how similar we are in our degeneracy.
That is right.
I think of all the people that I have sat down and talked to so far, honest to God, I think you might be the one person who is more degenerate than I am. That's saying a lot.
Who knows?
Yeah, because I've heard some of the stories, man. Like I was saying before we went live, you and me we've been in the same circle for a while, but we haven't had a chance to sit down and talk together. And so I've definitely heard a bunch of your stories behind closed doors. So I know that you're an absolutely filthy man. But you want to know how I got to where I am right now, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. It all started maybe. I got into pornography. I got into the adult film business back in 2017. And but oddly enough, before that, so the reason I got into you kind of got to go a little bit further back than that to sort of understand how I got there. So before that, I was a straight male escort in Australia for a few years. So I was getting paid to service wealthy business ladies and things like that. And then even before that, I was in the swinging scene as a single guy, which is really hard to do back in Australia. I managed to sort of get my way into the scene, met a few girls, and they invited me to parties and things. And so I sort of started to get my real taste of the degenerate lifestyle through going to orgies, going to swingers parties, like having sex in group scenarios and group settings in front of lots of people. I kind of like tapped into my exhibitionist side of things, and I thought, yes, this is fun. I like this. This is definitely for me. And then I met some girls in that swinging scene who were escorts themselves back in Australia, and they said, "Hey, you should try escorting. You'd be pretty good at it." And so I was like, "All right, fine." I did a photo shoot, got in shape, did a photo shoot, and then I put some ads out because there's all that's totally legal back home. Ended up getting some work, and I got the ball rolling. Ended up seeing I used to see wealthy business ladies. You sort of service them, and then I would do live cuckolding sessions for couples. So I'd bang a dude's wife in front of him while he jerked off in the corner, and then I'd have actually other female escorts who just wanted a night off, who didn't want to be on their knee, who were on their knees for 12 hours a day, making their money. They wanted to lay back and relax for an hour and have me service them. So those are my three main clients when I was doing escorting, and then through that, in Australia, there's a tiny porn scene in Melbourne.
Okay.
And basically all the people who do porn in Australia are also escorts. And they kind of use it as a cross-promotion tool. They just get their name out there. So I thought,
I'll just interrupt you for a second. Yeah. What is the population of Australia?
Oh, shit. It's about 20 million, I think.
20 million. Okay, so
it's about the same size as Los Angeles total.
Okay, so it's a lot less than Japan. It's just interesting.
Way less.
Japan has but it's such a smaller country, Japan. But Japan has a massive porn industry. But I just want to, it's interesting how Australia has only a small, but I guess the population is a lot smaller. I guess countries with bigger populations have maybe the porn industry is going to be bigger. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. It's because the laws in Australia are weird. So prostitution is decriminalized in Australia, and so you can advertise that. I mean, every state is a little bit different, but you can advertise it. It's totally, you're not going to jail for prostitution. But pornography, they've set a bunch of really strict regulations on it. So even doing pornography in Australia is actually kind of not legit. It's a little bit under the table. That's why it's a really small industry there. I mean, and Australia's total population is 25 million people. Tokyo's like 37 million.
Right.
Just the ones, the city. You're in Tokyo, right?
Yeah, Tokyo.
Yeah, just the one city you're in is like more people than the whole of my home countries. It's just really spread out.
By the way, how old were you when you first started getting involved in that the swinging scene, or I guess did you first start off by doing like PUA? Is that
Yeah,
did that come first?
kind of. Yeah, so I was I got out of like a really long-term relationship. Didn't really know, like when I was in my teenage years, didn't really know what I was doing with chicks. Met up with a few dudes online and just started going to clubs with them and started learning the whole PUA stuff. Hey Troy, good to see you in the chat.
Right,
And that's kind of how I learned just cold approach stuff. Was how I learned how to like talk to chicks. And then that was in my early 20s. Yeah, and that's when I got into the swinging scene in like early to mid 20s, like 24, 25, something like that.
All right.
Yeah.
Would you have considered yourself red pill aware back then, or was
not really? And people are a bit confused when I say that, because I think I throw like the whole PUA thing and red pill into two different areas. I look at like pickup stuff and game as like learning to get laid. That's what I was learning. I was learning like what kind of things you can say that get chicks respond to that can lead to sex, or what kind of things you can do on a date that are going to lead to sex. That I think is a bit different to what we talk about these days in terms of red pill. Red pill, in my for me at least, red pill was about like the overarching principles that make sure relationships work long term. That make sure the male female dynamic works long term. Because I know plenty of dudes who can get laid, but they can't keep a girl, or they can get laid, but then they become a complete pussy in a relationship, and it all goes to shit. They don't know. Red pill is about the underlying frame of the male female interaction and the correct way to push that forward. I think that's how I at least distinguish the two.
Understanding real female nature.
Yeah, exactly. Understanding real female nature, because there's a difference between like knowing what women respond to, and like getting them all like giggly and happy and fun and sleeping with you, and then actually understanding their nature. Those are two different things.
Right. So yeah, but how did you get involved in this? How did you start first getting involved in like the swinging scene? Like, was it just randomly happen, or did you like search for it?
No. So I had a friend actually who he put me onto this website called Red Hot Pie, which is basically it's like a Plenty of Fish, but for swinging back in Australia. It's very much Australian centric. And so you could go on there and you could create a profile and upload pictures, and you'd send DMs and stuff. And so all the things I was learning in the pickup space, because I was learning about like a little bit of like online game with online, because online dating had kind of just started then, like with Plenty of Fish back in the day when that was a new site. And then I was like, oh, I'll just apply these same principles to this website, and it worked. And I got like a lot of attention in the swinging scene, because the swinging scene is all the single dudes in the swinging scene have zero game. It's just like super randy guys DMing girls dick pics all the time, desperately hoping some like fatty will fuck them. And it does work. Versus if a dude came in there with just a little bit of game, I was like, oh, great. Everyone was like, oh yes, finally a normal guy, some guy who's like funny and charming who I can talk to. Great, yeah, come over and let's party. So it wasn't like, once I figured that out, it was actually pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm interested in how you got, like, how did you start getting businesswomen to like pay you for companionship, let's call it?
Yeah, it really is a bit more than just the sex for most of the time. It's companionship. So I was just running advertisements. So there's a few different platforms where all the escorts in Australia advertise. And so I had professional photos done, I had a good bio, and I would put my stuff up there, and I'd basically get women contact me that way. So
it wasn't Craigslist.
It wasn't Craigslist. No, it wasn't Craigslist. Craigslist wasn't reliable enough. No, that's not the kind of thing we'd advertise on. They're a lot more professional than Craigslist.
Did you get a lot of work, or was it just random little like bits of pocket money, or what?
It was good. It was enough. It was enough to live off.
Oh, right.
So,
Okay.
but you have to get the key to like especially in a male escort. The key to earning a living is about retaining like big ticket clients. So I would have, especially with the wealthier businesswomen, I would have a couple of women who would see me very regularly, and that's the game. The name of the game is getting a few women who are obsessed with you, who keep booking you again and again and again. And I had like my biggest client was this wealthy Chinese like multi-millionaire, and she flew me out to New Zealand for like skiing holidays and would buy very extravagant things while we were on dates together. But it was
Nice.
it was the sex was just like the cherry on top. It was more about the companionship and the time and going on a dinner date together and going on a romantic evening together, giving her that experience that she can't find in her personal life, because and this is the thing that really opened my eyes a bit, was working for this sort of wealthier woman who really couldn't find any guy, because she's on such another level financially compared to most men. She's in the top, like 0.1% of people on the planet, let alone women on the planet.
Hot, or was she elderly?
She was in her like mid-30s, but but she's Chinese, so she didn't age badly, so she wasn't bad looking. She was not bad looking, but she was definitely an older woman. But I wouldn't call her ugly by any stretch of the imagination, no. And so, actually, now that I remember, now I'm thinking back, she actually had a husband, but he was back in China. So she was officially married to this guy back in China, but you could tell I asked her about the relationship. It was a marriage of status. So he had a particular standing in the society with his job. I'm not going to say what he did. It might dox him or her. And so they married for the status together, but it was a totally sexless marriage. And then she went to Australia to get residency there because they want to move, a lot of Chinese wealth want to move their wealth out of China. So she moved there to move her wealth out of China and do that sort of stuff. And so when she was spending time with me, she was like, "This is the closest thing I've had to, like genuine affection," because wealthy women really, really struggle to find guys on their level. And I had a few other clients who weren't that wealthy. I had women who were, six-figure earning business women in Australia, Australian women, right? And their issue was they want a guy who's on their level, but the guys on their level are dating 18, 19-year-olds, right? And they're all in their 30s. And so they will pay for an evening with a guy like me to make them feel like they're 18 again, to make them feel like they're that woman again.
Right. And how old were you when you were doing that?
I was in my mid-20s.
All right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. It was a good it was a fun looking back on it now, because it was funny because I didn't get really red pilled until after that, until I started doing porn. And so it's funny looking back on all that now with a red pill lens and seeing that dynamic play out. Now I understand it even more than when I was doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have did guys pay you to like cuck them?
Yeah.
And how did you arrange something like that? Like cucking a guy who has got wife or girlfriend. That sounds fun.
That was that you gotta have fun with it. That was probably it was funny. The two major cities that I worked in when I was in Australia, right? I spent most of my time either in Perth on the west coast or in Melbourne on the east coast. And they're two different cities. And the clients I had there were two very different types of clients. So in Melbourne, it's more of an arts and sports, arts, music, and business kind of city. In Perth, it's more of a mining town, right, with mining wealth, lots of blue-collar workers. So most of my work in Perth was this sort of cuckolding stuff, where it was actually the guy's idea. So the guy would be one of these fly-in, fly-out mining workers. He would work on the mines, jerk off to porn for like 2-3 weeks at a time, come home to Perth with his wife, have this idea like, honey, let's invite a male escort around and we'll spit roast you, or I'll watch him fuck you, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he'd pay for it. It was always the guy's idea. Always the guy's idea. And he would just sit in the corner and watch, or sometimes we'd spit roast the girl and, he'd join in. But right. the swords never crossed. So that's that's a good thing. Yeah.
But I get, I think most things are come from guys' imaginations. I mean, I think guys, all the, sexual genres, they mostly come from men, I think.
Yeah.
What's your opinion?
Absolutely. That's all the real perverted stuff comes from dudes. Yeah.
True.
And it kind of comes like the more like sexually repressed a guy gets, or the more pent up his frustrations get, the more perverse his fantasies tend to get. That's what I saw, because all the cuckolding stuff came from guys who were working on mine sites for like with no women for like 2 to 3 weeks at a time, and then they have 1 week back in Australia or back in Perth with their partner, and then these perverted fantasies came out.
Why do you think guys develop those kind of fantasies?
Maybe it's because they just sit there watching all kinds of porn. It's pushed quite a lot in my industry. Now that I'm at sort of the at the very top end of it, I'm not like, now I'm behind the camera making the porn. I see it pushed quite a lot. That kind of fantasy, that kind of wife cheating on the husband stuff, cuckoldry, hot wifing, all this stuff is pushed quite a lot.
Do you think more guys get off to that than are willing to admit?
Yes, way more guys get off that. Yeah.
Stats, if you look at the stats online, I think there's a lot of guys that are getting off to it and they're not admitting it.
Yeah, the numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie. Nah, man. And that's the funny thing. It's the other way around. So I don't know if you're familiar with the term cuckweening.
Not really.
So cuckweening is the reverse. Cuckweening is when the husband cheats on the wife and the wife gets off on watching it. Right. So that's my fantasy. That's the fun stuff. It's like me banging another girl in front of my missus. And she's like sitting there masturbating in the corner watching it. Like, that's really fun. It's really hot. But the search results for that are so small compared to the cuckolding stuff.
Yeah, it's just the stats really don't lie about it,
Nah, man. Maybe this is a new thing. Maybe it's a new phenomenon with the pussification of men, the emasculation of men. Maybe that's bringing this out in guys. I honestly can't put my finger on it, really.
I heard an evolutionary theory about it, where the idea of another your wife or whatever, or your partner getting dicked down, it's called like sperm wars. Basically, like an evolutionary thing where you have to compete, so you get aroused by it because you have to do the job as well. You have to compete with the other sperm to fertilize the egg.
Right.
That's why I don't know. That could be one reason. But
that could be it. You know what? There's a really funny comment I want to make note of here, Mac. CJ Joels, C Joels down the bottom here. He says, "Did you service Gina Reinhardt?" So I don't know if this is actually really fun. I'm really glad he asked it. I don't know if anyone is aware of who Gina Reinhardt is.
I have no idea.
Gina Reinhardt is one of the most wealthy Australians in the world out there. She's she's the daughter of a mining billionaire. So her father owned all these like mines in Western Australia, where I'm from. So she's a bit of a ham beast. She's a big lady. Super wealthy though. Here's the funny thing. My father went on a date with her back when he was in his 20s, and he told me all about it. And he was the only one. I don't think he ended up fucking her. But he worked in the same mining town, And this is when her father was still alive, and her father ran all the mining. Everyone was intimidated by her, by dating her, because her father was Ryan Hancock. And so my dad was like, "Ha, I'll go on a date with her." And he went on a date with this lady. So I just thought it was funny to mention. This guy dropped it in the chat.
What's a bogan? I have no idea.
A bogan is like an Australian version of a redneck.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably the best equivalent to nail it. Yeah, like a bogan is like a guy who lives in the country, who wears singlets, like wife beaters, has a mullet, drives his ute, drinks beer, drinks tinnies all day, smokes a pack of cigarettes all day, bets on the TAB, bets on the horse races. These are all bogan stereotypes. Yeah.
Okay. So where are you from again? Which part of Australia?
Western Australia.
Okay.
Where all the bogans are.
Yeah. So what did your family think of you getting involved in the adult entertainment industry?
Well, so the first person I told was my sister. Me and my sister are very close. She's we said we get along. She's actually nothing like me. She's an absolute sweetheart. My sister is the complete opposite of a degenerate. She's like really innocent and lovely and sweet and like polite and and none of the things I am. But we get along. And so she was the first person I told, and she wasn't really surprised. She just laughed. She was like, "Oh, of course you're doing that." So she understands me. And then when I told some of my closer friends, they had the same reaction, like, "Oh, of course you're doing that." The only person who really freaked out a little bit was my dad. He thought because he's an older guy, he's a boomer. His first thought was, "Oh, he's doing drugs," and I've never done drugs in my entire life. I've never even smoked pot. So I don't drink anymore. I don't never smoked weed, never done cocaine, never done anything like that. So I'm totally drug free. I've been my entire life, with the exception of booze, with the exception of alcohol. So that was his first thought. His first thought was, "Oh, he's getting into drugs and stuff," and I had to tell him, "Look, I'm not getting into drugs. Relax, not what I'm doing." And then his second thought was, "Oh, I failed as a father because my son has to resort to pornography." Little does he know that I make a considerable amount of money now doing said work. I make more than most people I get paid more than the average man to whip my dick out on screen. And it's not a bad way to make a living, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So what was it like your first time on a porn set?
It was actually pretty fun and relaxed. I was super nervous, very, very nervous for my first ever scene. And it was actually at the airport hotel in Melbourne, which we had my first scene, and it was with an American girl. They'd flown in an American actress for a month to shoot some work in Australia, and it was just a very basic blowjob scene. So it was a very easy scene to start with. That's a very, very easy way of sort of introducing yourself to this work. But she was lovely. We had a great time. Everything worked perfectly. Nailed the scene, did a great job, and the guy loved me, and he invited me back again. So my first scene went as smoothly as I possibly could have hoped. It was a total layup. It was easy.
All right, cool. And then so you did that a bit, and you did that in Australia for a bit, and you went to the UK, right?
Yeah. I was in Australia for about 6 months shooting there. Got my feet wet. Got a hang of shooting on camera, and then I had made some contacts who knew directors in England, so I went to England, and I ended up shooting in England for about 6 months. I ended up shooting for a couple of big companies there. I shot for Fake Taxi. I got to drive around in the Fake Taxi and shoot there, and I got to shoot for Brazzers while I was there, and Dorsel, which is this really big French company. So I started working for bigger and better companies there. Got a lot more experience, and then I eventually got on the radar for the MindGeek, which is the biggest company in the world. MindGeek is the company that owns Brazzers. They also own Digital Playground. They own Babes, and they flew me to Hungary. They flew me to Budapest to shoot a few scenes out there for their production out there. and that's when things really started kicking off for me. And then I moved to Europe, and I spent about 3 months probably about 6 months actually, bouncing back and forth between Budapest and Hungary, which is the porn capital of Europe, and the Czech Republic, Prague, in the Czech Republic. That's the second biggest porn city in Europe.
Oh, in
so
Prague.
I shot back and forth there, yeah. And I ended up shooting for the great Rocco Siffredi when I was out in Budapest and learning a bit from him. So that was really, really quite something. Yeah, that was about 6 months, and then I eventually eventually made my way out to Los Angeles, where I've been shooting for the last 2.5 years.
Good stuff, man. I mean, speaking of Budapest, the girls are super hot, right?
They're pretty cute. I'm not gonna lie, they're pretty cute. Czech girls and Hungarian girls, all those sort of Eastern Europeans, they all kind of look the same to me. The Russians and the Ukrainians and the Czechs and the Hungarians, they've got a similar look. They're all very, very, very slim, long hair. Not the super curvy. They're not like your super curvy Latin American types with the big butts. They don't look like that. They're very
nice butts, nice shapes.
Oh, they're good shape. But they're slender. They're slender looking women.
Well, yeah. Have you been to Japan?
I've not. I don't have yellow fever, Mac. I'm not. I'm gonna make a statement that's gonna probably piss you off. I'm not into Asian girls at all.
Oh God, I don't think I have yellow fever either. I like hot girls. I just like hot girls of all. Have you ever? You've never. Well, you just said you hooked up. You were with
I was hooking up with Chinese broad. I've shot porn with girls from like Asian backgrounds, but they're Americanized Asian girls.
Have you ever done a porn scene with an actual Japanese girl, like a born in Japan girl, or
no? I don't. Not a Japanese chick. I don't think. In my personal life, I have. In my personal life, I've been with a Japanese girl, but not on camera yet.
Just since you mentioned, what was it? What was that? Fake taxi?
Yeah.
I know there's one. I know one Japanese porn star that kind of does international. What is it? I think her name's Lil Ray Black or something.
Oh, I've seen her name, yeah, and there's another girl who was really popular recently. It starts with an M. Dang it, she was dating another guy in the industry. I can't remember her name now. Damn. But she was dating another performer out here in Los Angeles. She ended up getting a green card and moving out to America.
Yeah. She was Japanese.
Yeah, she's been quite. God damn it! Why is her name slipping? No, I'm thinking of something. The name's just slipping my brain for the time being. But they're quite popular, man. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like the Japanese porn industry is a whole different thing, because the Japanese porn only wants Japanese penis.
They blur it out. It's just weird.
They blur it out. But they don't want white guy dick.
Yeah, there's a real misconception that they're into, that Japanese girls like foreign guys. Some of them do, but for the most part they don't. But you're right about the Japanese. The Japanese porn is a whole different kettle of fish. I don't watch it. I mean, I've seen it. I'm not gonna lie, I've seen it, but it tends to be. I get the impression it's really perverted. Like, you think I'm a pervert, but this stuff is like, it's like kind of dorky. It seems like, and they do that on purpose. They have these really dorky geek, like, they'd have a really skinny guy and there'd be a load of girls around him and he'd be like, it's just...
Yeah, they make, from what I can tell, they make the guy looks dorky and awkward and not confident.
Yeah.
And the women are the sexually aggressive ones. Or it's a bunch of guys kind of like taking advantage of one girl. Those tend to be the two scenarios. There's no like smooth Japanese Chad rolling
No,
in and slinging dick. That doesn't really happen in Japanese porn.
it's really, yeah, it's always really really perverted, like
Yeah,
in a very dorky or like, yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
yeah. And what CJ says here is exactly right. They don't hire white guys because the Japanese men are the ones, or Asian men are the men that are consuming Japanese porn, and so they
Right.
don't. Even it's not even just a nationalistic thing, CJ Joels. It's basically an Asian thing because Korean men consume Japanese porn, Chinese men consume Japanese porn. They don't want to see a white guy because
Unless it's niche.
that's the
Very niche.
stereotype.
It's a niche thing if they do it here.
Yeah, and there's only I only know of one. I might actually end up working out in Japan because there's one Japanese director I know of who likes to shoot Western male and female performers with local Japanese talent. So if I ever do come out to Japan to hang out with you and John, I'm gonna go try and shoot some Japanese porn while I'm out there. Tick that off my bucket list.
So you've never been here?
No, I've not been. Not, I've been to Korea. I've been to Korea a few times. I've got some friends in Korea. I am a big fan of Seoul. I really like South Korea. Love the country. Love the people. But
Yeah.
I've not made it to Japan yet. No.
Oh yeah, man, you'd have a good time here. It's a cool city, man. It's really,
It seems like that. I get the vibe that it's a real fun place to be.
yeah. It's just like it's just easy to get around. It's just everything's super convenient. I mean, there's lots of things to do, lots of things to see. I mean, it's, yeah. You're probably gonna change your opinion. I don't know, maybe you won't, but I mean, when you come out here, like the hot Japanese girls don't really travel. I mean, they don't go out.
Mm,
You'll see a different bunch when you get here. You'll be kind of. I
yeah.
know for me though, I never really thought. I was never specifically attracted to Asians before it came to Japan. But when I came here, it's like, oh my god, they don't. These girls don't travel. I've never seen these girls in Ireland. Um, yeah, but I don't know.
Look,
You'll see.
I'm willing to give it a chance, Mac.
Yeah,
Never say never. All right. I'm happy to taste the fruit.
yeah. Yeah, definitely, man. So you have no idea when that might be happening, or is
No,
that,
no, it's well, not right now with all the Corona stuff. It's a bit up in the cards. I've got to sort some things out here. I'm actually in the process of moving to Miami.
all right?
So, yeah, I'm back here in Los Angeles, packing up all my stuff here, moving all my stuff into boxes so I can move across to Miami. And
John has good things to say about Miami.
yeah, I've been there a few times now. I actually quite like it. It's a lot better than Los Angeles. I don't really like Los Angeles that much. So some people love it. Like Central Los Angeles is not really that great. California can be great, but you got to kind of go away from the big cities. So places like Orange County are really good. There's a lot of really great natural sights to see here in California. But
Well, it's a terrible place to be with all this beer bug shit going on.
yeah, I mean, yeah, things have finally opened up here now. But yeah, I'd much rather be in Florida with Mayor the Governor DeSantis is an absolute giga chad. He didn't give a fuck. So he's basically flipping the bird to Joe Biden, saying, "I'm not locking down. Fuck you. Like you can't make me." So I want to be in a state. I want to live in a state where the governor is that chad. So that's where I'm. That's where I'm moving.
Yeah, I mean, it's really bizarre out here because out here in Japan, like, I mean, it's really confusing for me because it's if someone was to ask me in 2019 which would be stricter, about a so-called pandemic, Japan or America, I would say Japan would be way stricter. They'll have all these rules, and it's complete opposite. Yeah, they wear the masks and that, but I mean, I'm sure you've seen what me and John have been up to all throughout. We've been going to clubs, and
Yeah.
even in lockdowns, you can find places to go. Like, it's like, even when there was so-called lockdowns here, it was, I mean, they were barely a lockdown. It was like,
That's what that gave me a bit of hope. Seeing you guys still going out there partying, I'm like, okay, good. There's at least some places in the world where people are still living a normal life. And I know in Florida, I know in Miami, there was a lot of like bars and things were supposed to close at midnight, but there was a lot of speakeasy clubs happening. So like illegal after hours nightclubs going on in Miami for the last year. So that gives me hope that people are like, fuck this, I want to party, and they're going to go and party anyway. I like seeing people, revolting against that kind of, authoritarianism. I think it's healthy.
For sure. Well,
Yeah.
by the way, did you say you were just in Portugal?
I was, yeah. I flew in from Portugal yesterday. Yeah.
For work or what?
No, I was out there exploring some things. I'm exploring my options in terms of like a second place.
Right.
With my I've got my residency here in America. I'm just looking for a second place or base of. I want to have a backup plan, Mac. Basically, just want to have a backup plan, just in case shit hits the fan. And so I was looking at a few places. Portugal's a really nice place, really beautiful place, like cheap, like stupid cheap, amazing weather, quite nice women, pretty traditional in a lot of ways. No drug problem at all. They decriminalized like heroin and cocaine, and I didn't see a single goddamn like addict on the streets,
Right.
unlike Los Angeles.
Yeah, I've heard great. Yeah, I don't know. I think they should probably legalize things because it's going to be done anyway.
I don't know. I can't figure out if if it was the legalization, the decriminalization that did it. I don't know what. Like, they did something right. I know they did something right because they don't have the problem. Because I think the way they did it in Portugal, if I'm correct, it's they decriminalized all the drugs, and then so you didn't go to jail, but if you got caught with it, it was a fine, and that fine went towards funding rehabilitation clinics and trying to get people off the drugs. I think that's the way the system was built, and they've been doing this. They've been doing this for like a decade or something, I think, and it works. Like I've been hanging around the main city, Lisbon. There's no crackheads like laying around on the street, and heroin. You can get heroin, but there's no junkies. There's no tents on the streets like you have here in Los Angeles, where people are just like setting up tents under the underpass and living there and doing crack or shooting up heroin. So there's definitely something they've fucked up here in America. There's definitely something they fucked up.
It's when you see in Tokyo, like there's not much homelessness, but if you ever see like the very few people that are homeless, they like it's very Japanese. They have like they set up their little tent very very like neatly, and like they have
they're like when they're shooting up, it's like a Japanese tea ceremony when they're boiling the heroin.
Oh man, I think it would be. I'm sure. I don't think there's heroin in Japan. I really don't think. I'm like you don't see those.
That would surprise me.
Drugs are super super legal here. Like I'm sure you can get them somewhere, but it's not culturally acceptable. Even amongst the young people, even amongst like so-called down with it crowd, they're you mentioned like marijuana or something, and they'd be like, "Oh, that's bad," or like
Huh. That's a real culture. That's 100% a cultural thing. Then that's stupid. That's insanely cultural. Because here I'll tell you a funny story. When I first moved to California, and like I said before, I don't do drugs, and I've never done weed, never smoked pot in my life.
In your industry.
Yeah, people were looking at me here in California like I had two heads. When I told them,
but when you're a male performer, marijuana lowers your testosterone. That's a fact. Like
there's a lot of guys who smoke weed who are porn stars.
Yeah,
a lot of guys, and they do it to relax before the scene.
All right, I mean there's different studies, but it is one of the noted side effects of it.
Yeah.
I know when I have occasionally, it's not a thing I'm really into, but I have done it, and I know it doesn't help. I'll put it like that.
These guys. I see a lot of dudes who will smoke like. They do a lot of things that are very high testosterone. They're in the gym. They're in the gym. They're lifting. They're fighting. They're doing jiu-jitsu or boxing or something. And then they'll use a joint to just calm their nerves before they shoot a scene. So I've seen
Yeah.
a lot of guys use it. Yeah, but yeah, you tell people in California you don't smoke weed, they think you're a fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
You've literally never done it, not even once.
Not even once. Not even once. No, zero. I have zero interest in doing it. Zero. Yeah, it doesn't appeal to me. It just doesn't appeal to me, man. I have an addictive personality.
Right.
I know I have an addictive, compulsive, obsessive personality. Hence why I'm shooting porn. So
Right.
I know that any kind of like substances that have addictive potential are going to be bad for me. So I'm smart enough to know that that's a terrible decision for me to get to, like a terrible path for me to go down. The only thing that I might try one day is mushrooms, because I've only ever heard positive things, like positive, literally like long-term, like brain effects from mushrooms, and I haven't really heard any negative ones. So mushrooms are the one thing that I do want to try at some point.
Trip out. It's pretty much. I've not done them, but I believe it's pretty much they grow. They used to grow in my around my house, like magic mushrooms. They would grow. People pick them around
back in Ireland.
Back in Ireland, yeah.
Yeah, they grew. They used to grow where I'm from as well, back in the countryside in Australia. Same in my small town. People used to go out picking them. Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up hearing like bad stories where people having really bad trips, so it kind of put me off doing it.
We grew up with stories of guys who would go out. They didn't know what they were looking for, and they would go out thinking they were picking magic mushrooms, and they'd end up picking poisonous toadstools, and they get violently sick because they ate the wrong fucking thing.
They're very similar.
Yeah,
there's different. Well, there's different kinds in Ireland too, but there's it kind of there you can pick the wrong ones and then you can but apparently it's like an LSD trip. I haven't done either, so
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't know either.
Yeah, but back to the I don't know, like what about have you ever had any like uncomfortable scenes where you were like, oh, where you didn't really want to do it, or it went wrong, or something? Do you have any stories?
Yeah, there's always been days. There's always been rough days. It's like any other job. There's always going to be a bad day. It's not like this isn't like the world's perfect job. You know, there are days when things are a bit harder than others. I've had let's see. One of the funniest days I had on set was with this. So the director is actually quite a famous director. I can't say his name because otherwise he might get cancelled from him. But we were shooting what's called a blow bang scene. So a blow bang is like a gang bang, but only blowjobs. So it was like 5 guys, and one chick, and she was just giving blowjobs to everybody. And it was actually the director's wife was the woman, was the female talent.
God, talk about cuckolding.
So, but she's really popular. So she makes some real good money, and the two of them make real good money off of her. So this was the scene all day, and the director was one of the guys who was gonna get his dick sucked, right? But he had this brand new assistant who was helping him with the camera, and all day he was just getting pissed at this assistant. He was like, we'll just call him Steve for the time being. He was basically like, oh, for fuck's sake, Steve, that's the wrong shot. Like, your lighting's all fucked up, Steve. Look, move the camera here. Move the light here, Steve. Look, you're doing this all wrong. Let me show you. The whole, for hours, it was like that. And then eventually, so we're all getting our dicks sucked while this is going on by his wife. And then at some point, he has to jump in and get his dick hard and get his wife to suck his own dick. But he's in the kitchen, like furiously, like trying to get wood. But he's so angry at his assistant Steve that he can't get a boner. He's like, for God's sake, just do it right already. And he's sitting there trying to get his boner. And he's like, just film, just start filming anyway. And what happened was, so there's 4 guys, and we're all lined up one after another on a couch, just sitting there. And the girl is making her way down the couch, sucking one guy at a time. And the director was supposed to sit next to me at the very end of this couch. And before the camera started rolling, he'd walked down and he'd put this one of those triangular sex wedges, those sex cushions. You know the ones I'm talking about. He'd put that there next to me. I think that's just because he's got a bad back, so it's just like his backrest, so he can sit there and comfortably get a blowjob. So he put that there next to me, and then he's in the kitchen, furiously, angrily yelling at Steve. And he says, "All right, fuck it, action!" And so Steve starts filming. Steve's working his way down the line. He gets to me, and I can see from the angle that Steve's getting, so that his wife, the director's wife, sucking my dick. Steve's shooting the camera. I know he's getting this little triangular sex wedge in the shot, so it looks bad. It looks really unprofessional. It looks terrible. The director sees this and loses his fucking mind, and he comes like storming into the into the set, grabs this fucking sex wedge, throws it across the room. Like, for God's sake, Steve, you can't do anything right. And whilst my dick is in his wife's mouth, I'm just sitting there looking at the other male talent, like, holy shit, this is going to be a long day, boys. And we had to go through the whole day like with a straight face, not laughing, and pull it through. That's one of the more interesting days I've ever had on set.
Has there been any time where you've like turned that, you're like, I'm not doing that, or something you didn't want to do?
I've come close. I'm gonna be honest. I've come close.
Yeah,
I've come real close. There's been a few times I've had sex with some. I've had sex with a couple of ham beasts on camera, and there was this one girl, man. Oh, it was for a bigger girl. I've shot with every kind of woman under the sun. That is my superpower, is that my dick can get hard for damn near anything. So that's one of the reasons why I can do my job. And this one girl was a very, very rotund woman who didn't really take care of her personal hygiene. And so, well, we were about to like start the sex, and she just like, the moment she opened her legs, I just got this waft of what was brewing underneath, and she had to like get a can of deodorant and like literally spray her entire undercarriage with spray on deodorant to try and mask
nasty
smell. So that was a rough day. I almost said no. I was like, but I want the money, so fuck it. We'll do it. I just had to like close my nose and think of the queen.
Yeah, that's no good. Definitely not. Those
are the days that I earn my paycheck.
Yeah. Those are the days where it's Is there anything that how about outside of the porn industry that your personal, is there anything you still want to tick off the box? You've probably done everything. I mean, is there anything like for most guys it's like, their dream is to have like a threesome, and they think that that's never going to happen. Your average guy is like thinking that he's never going to have a threesome. He thinks it's not possible, but he doesn't know that it is if you just arrange it. But is there anything like you?
It's sad to me that I find it sad that some men will go through life and never have two women sucking their dick. That is for me. That is a sad thought, because that is a fucking great experience, and I think every man should have that at some point in his life before he dies.
I agree, definitely. But most guys go through life like having sex with just a handful of women if they're lucky.
Yeah. What you were going to ask before? Oh, you were saying, is there anything I haven't done that I was going to?
Is there anything that you want to do that like you're like, I want to have 4 women? You might have already done that.
It's really, at this point, it's just things I want to learn. So I want to get better with rope bondage. I want to learn more advanced type. I know a bit of rope bondage, but I want to learn like more advanced like suspension stuff, some really cool stuff. That's it's more about like me leveling up my own skills than anything that a woman can do to me or has done to me. At this point I've basically had everything. Damn near everything has been ticked off the bucket list as far as I can think of. There's very little like. Like, and I've developed fetishes that I didn't know I had. Like, I didn't have there's certain kinks and things I've developed just
Right.
from shooting porn that weren't fetishes of mine, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun in that way. You're like, oh, great. There's more doors to open up
but
once you start being a bit together.
you're saying you don't do drugs, but sex is like a drug, and it definitely is because it's when you're 13 years old, you see a Playboy on the stand, you're like, oh my god, it's like a Playboy magazine. That's enough. But as you get older, you just the more experience you have, the more you want to do things. Like the same with alcohol or anything. You start off, you have your first drink, you get drunk off it, then like you keep drinking, get older, you need more and more drink. Same kind of. To be honest, it's the same with sex.
Yeah.
In a way.
If you go backwards, you can't. It's really if you're the kind of guy you start going backwards with the kind of sex you're getting, that's when things get really frustrating. Like if you've been think about like a rock star, like Nikki Sixx or something was having like fucking threesomes with snorting coke off women's assholes for decades, and now he's in a place where he's not getting as much sex. Imagine being that guy. Imagine being like, you had all this stuff, you had all this crazy degenerate sex, and now you're stuck with like lame missionary sex with like one woman. That would be horrible. That would be absolutely horrible. Yeah. I pray to God that never happens to me.
Yeah, you'd need to go real cold turkey and not have any sex for months on end in order to get like for that to be
to reset yourself.
Yeah, you need to reset somehow. But yeah, I mean, what is Joel says? Any anal loops he's at? I imagine not, because
all the time.
All the time?
All the time. Yeah.
But those girls, wouldn't they prepare?
They do, but some of them don't know how to prepare. Some of them don't prepare as well as others. I have been pooped on a lot of times. And at this point, it doesn't bother me anymore. It doesn't faze me now. Whereas most guys, if they had a girl poop on their dick, they would lose their boner and it'd be like, ew, gross, whatever. For me, it's like, all right, paper towel, let's keep going. Like, I don't care.
I mean, I'm a fan of banging girls in the ass. So I mean, there's been a few times. So I mean, it's because they're just like
it comes with the territory. You're playing with fire.
I fuck girls in the ass after bringing them home from the club. So you know what I mean?
They're not prepared for it in that case. No, so it's going to happen.
In the shower, it is what it is. It's not a big deal.
I think that's the thing. That's the thing most guys don't understand. If you don't make it a big deal, then it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
As the guy, if you, as the guy, make a big deal out of it and get turned off, get disgusted, get like sort of freaked out by it, then that's going to freak her out, and she ain't going to want to do it again. But if you don't give a shit, literally, then it's more fun for her. She's like, oh, this guy doesn't care. I'm not embarrassing myself.
This guy's an animal. He doesn't give a fuck.
Exactly. Exactly. And it opens them up to it. Yeah, they're gonna be more inclined to do it.
Yeah. But I'm not very squeamish, to be honest, man.
You can't be, mate. You can't be squeamish. So I remember I used to be obsessed with squirting. When I was younger, I used to think squirting was the hottest thing in the world. It was the coolest thing in the world to see a girl squirt. And I remember I had a friend who used to get laid. He was getting laid a lot more than me when we were in my 20s. And he hated girls who squirted. He couldn't stand it. He's like, oh God, if she's a squirter, I kick her out. He hated having to wash his bed sheets all the time. And I remember thinking, like, what? How could you not like that? And now that I've been in the porn industry and I've had girls squirting on me all the time as well, now I can start to see what he's talking about. I'm like, oh, I've got to clean all this mess up. It's like it's lost its cool factor, the whole squirting thing. But it's
right.
It's basically piss. Yeah, it's basically piss most of the time. But there is a difference. There is a difference. Like, but if a girl's doing it in a porno, if it's like written into the title of the porno, like "Squirting Nymphomaniacs Volume 47," then it's piss. Because if it has to be on camera, then it is faked.
Right.
Versus if she happens to just squirt randomly during a scene, then it's probably a natural thing. Then it's actually her squirting. That's how you can tell in pornos. If she squirts, if the title of the movie, the theme of the movie is squirting, then it's faked. I'll guarantee you.
Okay. Yeah. So since you're talking about squirting, how do like male porn stars get like big loads? Like, because they have to, like, for they have to have a, like, that's obviously because you have to have a lot of cum in order to make it look like a good cum shot. So what do you eat, or what do you?
There's a bunch of things you can eat. I have an entire chapter on this in my ebook. Actually, I break down exactly what you can, and I've learned this from like. This is a combination of me plus like a bunch of my older mentors telling me all this stuff. So I know exactly what guys can do to have the biggest cum shot possible. But a couple of things that are super, super easy for every guy to do. One is it helps if you drink a lot of water. Being hydrated just adds to like the total like the liquid volume load when you're ejaculating. Second thing they can do every day is have 50 milligrams of zinc. Supplementing with 50 milligrams of zinc will significantly increase the volume of your seminal fluid. Another thing you can do is like when we're shooting a scene, typically we will like edge before we shoot the scene. So if I'm shooting a scene the next day, then the night before I will like masturbate without orgasming. So I could like deliberately give myself blue balls, and that causes my balls to produce semen, causes my balls to sort of fill up, and so the next day when I ejaculate, the load is even bigger. Right? So there's a bunch of stuff here that you can do to make it much more voluminous, much bigger. Yeah, that's the name of the game, man. Is make it, because nothing looks worse than a porno when the dude's been railing a girl for like 20, 30 minutes, and then it's like poof, it's just dust. You get nothing.
Yeah, it's like, it's sometimes when you go like 3 or 4 rounds with a girl, and then by the fourth time you come, it's just it's like you're shooting blank.
You're shooting blanks, mate. You're shooting blanks.
Yeah. But like I know, like, I like a lot of your tweets. Like, they're pretty based. I mean, like I don't know, like in the porn industry, is there a lot of like SJWs and I imagine there would be, because if you look at the kind of the OnlyFans chicks, they're unbelievably, like, they're all social justice warriors, jumping on all the bandwagons.
Yep.
Trying to be all. So I was wondering what it's like in the porn industry.
It is all SJWs. All like they're all woke. Hey John, what's up? Good to see you. They're all complete woke SJW. I am the most based porn star on the planet. Like you can't. There's no one more based than me in this fucking industry, and I get a lot of hate. I get a lot of hate.
Right.
On my Twitter account from people in my industry. I've had to block so many girls that I've shot scenes with just because I have an opinion on something. They all hate me, and it's because these girls have never had anybody disagree with them in their entire life. This is literally the world they live in. They're in their mid-20s, and they've gone their entire life because they're a pretty girl. They've gone their entire life without being held accountable for any of their shitty behavior. And they've been told constantly that they're perfect and they can do no wrong. And every man they interact with, so all of their fans on OnlyFans, all their fans on Twitter or on Instagram, Snapchat, whatever, they all adore them and tell them they're perfect and they can do no wrong. And then when they're on set, all of the directors and the camera guys and the personal assistants and the makeup lady and the audio guy, the lighting guy, everyone is telling her that she's perfect and she's amazing and she can do no wrong, because they don't want her to have a outburst on set if somebody offends her, and then she might walk off set, and then that's cost the director thousands of dollars. So it's kind of inbuilt into the industry to placate to these women. And I'm not saying they're bad women. Like I love them. Like these are the girls I work with. They're great. They're a lot of them are sweethearts, but some of them can be complete divas. And a lot of them are never held accountable. And it's fair to even the ones that are great. They don't get held accountable for shitty behavior all the time. They don't get called out. And so me coming from a more based perspective, me saying things that are a bit more actually traditionally, like almost conservative in a way, like some of my, my opinions on male-female dynamics, this coming at things from a red pill perspective, really grinds their gears, really grinds up against this sort of woke agenda that the whole porn industry has.
You just have to, I've never had a mob come after me, but I recognize that there's one thing you can never do, and that's apologize, because that only makes it worse.
Never, ever apologize, man. So I actually had I have an agent who represents me, and he's based here in LA. And I had a tweet blow up back in December, which pissed off like 90% of the porn industry. They all hate me now. And what was it? The tweet was something like, lads, if she refers to herself as a queen, a princess, a bad bitch, or a brat, then she's probably not relationship material. That was the tweet. I think that's a perfectly reasonable statement. Basically, all I'm saying there is don't date a narcissist. If you actually look into the substance of what I'm saying, it's don't date a narcissist. That's a fair and reasonable statement. But because basically every woman in my industry is a narcissist, and a lot of them refer to themselves as queen, bad bitch, princess, or brat in their bios, they all got mega pissed at me. And my agent reached out to me and he was like, yeah, Sterling, I don't know what you were thinking with that, but everyone's angry. And like, maybe you should apologize. And I just said to him, look, Mark, no way I'm apologizing, because you can't apologize to these people. All an apology does is show weakness. All an apology does is show that you care more about the approval of others than you do about your own opinion on the world. It's so pathetic, And if I don't set out with the intent. I don't have the intention of offending people. I don't have the intention of offending anybody. But if I say something that is like fundamentally true and like verifiably, like factually, observably true, and it ruffles some feathers, well, that's on them, not on me. Like, it's not like I don't change reality through my statements, but the fact that it's pissing people off tells you that it's shaking up their worldview. It's like I'm saying something that they know deep down is true, but it conflicts with their worldview. So that's why they get so viscerally pissed off by it.
Right. And, the people that apologize always lose more in so many more ways. They show that they're a coward, and that, they still suffer the consequences of what, no one forgives them. They still if they're going to get fired, they still get fired. They still apologize. And then, it's just
it doesn't change the damn thing. And so I've just said, well, I've basically just taken the policy of, well, fuck it. Like, I'm not going to apologize. I'm going to keep, because here's the thing. I have so many men and women, by the way, sliding in my DMs privately, in my email, my Twitter inbox, my Instagram inbox, or my YouTube comments, telling me that I'm helping them. I've got a lot of dudes coming to me saying, thank you for helping my sex life. You've saved my marriage. My girlfriend's obsessed with me now because I'm dicking her down properly. I've had women DMing me saying, thank you so much for teaching men this stuff, because nobody is teaching men how to fuck properly. And hearing that is what drives me. Not hearing these, feminist harpies in my industry saying, oh, you're teaching men dangerous things. Oh, men won't understand the nuance of men. Men can't understand this stuff. Or, you're being misogynist by speaking more traditional, talking about traditional gender roles and things like this. I'm like, look, I would I can go to sleep at night knowing that I'm helping men, that I'm helping people's lives, versus like the Instagram thought, or versus the girl who's faking a relationship on her OnlyFans account. with and taking these poor saps money. That's the ultimate irony, is that these women are like the ones that are getting mad at me for trying to help dudes are the same women who are creating a fake relationship through their OnlyFans account, who actually, by the way, bit of an insider secret, probably aren't even messaging the dudes themselves. They probably have a male handler, a guy, who is doing all the typing for them.
Yeah.
That's something that most guys don't even realize. That most of the dudes, most of the people most of the fans on OnlyFans are actually chatting to a guy. They're not chatting to the female model themselves.
Especially when it's a big account, you know.
Oh yeah.
The Catch Me Outside girl. She turned 18 and she got like over. Yeah, apparently, you think she's actually DMing like these simps? Like, there's no way.
And it was because she did that. Catch Me Outside girl did like 1 million in 6 hours or something, and before her there was a Disney actress, Bella Thorne. She did like a couple of million in a day or two. And you think for a second, you think about the math of that. It's like there's no way in hell that one woman can reply to that many people. It's literally impossible to sit there and type that many. So she has to have a team of people doing all the messaging for her. It's impossible.
Yeah. But I don't know. These simps will never learn. We can only try and help them.
Well, mate, what I've learned is that there really are only two types of men in this world. There are the kinds of men who are going to simp and thanks, John. There are two types of men. There's the kind of guy who is going to subscribe to an OnlyFans account and like pedestalize a chick and throw cash at her to try and get her attention, is not the kind of man who will seek to improve himself. The kind of guy who's going to watch your channel, watch my channel, watch John from One Life Dating's channel, whatever. The kind of guy who is going to try to improve himself in any way, shape, or form. Be it dating, be it fitness, be it wealth. The kind of man who's going to seek self-help advice is the kind of guy who's going to listen to us. But they're not the kind of guy who's going to subscribe to an OnlyFans account and pedestalize, someone like Bella Thorne or anyone. They don't want to hear what we have to say. Right. I've learned this over the last year.
They'll spite us for trying to help them.
Yeah, it conflicts with their worldview. This is what I've realized, Mac, is that these guys have a worldview. Their belief system is something like, I'm static. I am who I am, and that cannot change. Like, my position in society is fixed, and that cannot change. I am not, alpha male Giga Chad, and I can never be, and I will never. Like, that's not possible. That's the fundamental difference in worldview. The kind of guys who simp and subscribe to that is their worldview. Versus guys like us who believe that if one man can do it, then another man can do it. Anything is possible. Anything's learnable. So I'm going to do what's necessary to improve. Those are two different worldviews, and it's because when I first started out, promoting my books and my sort of my sex advice, right? When I first started promoting it, I was promoting it to my porn fans, and I was promoting it actually through a few other porn girls, and it blew me away how maybe not even like unresponsive, but how negative the response was to self-help information amongst that demographic of men. They don't want to improve themselves. They don't even want to think they can improve themselves. They really just want to stay exactly where they are in their comfortable little bubble. So you can say like, hey, we can try to help them, but in my experience, they don't want to be helped. And until they have to have a moment in their life where they hit rock bottom. They really have to, most men have to hit some kind of rock bottom before they are willing to accept that their view of the world is wrong, and they need to, maybe they've been fooled their entire life.
They have to seek it out. It won't, you like it's you'll. I'm sure you've had experiences where you've tried to, red pill friends, and it just goes badly.
Yeah. You
Uh,
can't do it. You can't do it. Yeah, they've got to come to that conclusion themselves. You
right.
can sprinkle crumbs here and there, but they've really got to come to that conclusion themselves. They've got to get fucked over by a chick, or unfortunately they've got to go through the ringer at some point to sort of learn this. If they weren't brought up, with pardon me, if they weren't brought up with these kind of truths, they've really got to just go through some kind of shock to their system to even consider like a new worldview.
Yeah. As I get older, it's like I have to surround my friends are just naturally, they're naturally the people that I'm surrounded with are red pill, because it's hard to maintain friendships with people who are not. Like
Yeah, I agree, man. It's that's probably one of the major reasons why I'm leaving LA and going to Miami, because there's just everyone's too woke here. I've got
man.
all my more based friends are living in Miami, so that's where I'm going to go.
Yeah, man. But I'm sure according to John, it's a good spot. So, yeah,
Man.
it's been a good talk, man. We've been going for like over an hour. So, we'll cut it. But what do you? Got anything in the pipeline?
Yeah. Let me just share my screen right now. I've got this. Where are we at? This is actually my brand new book that I just released. It is on. I don't know if you can see that right there. Boom. On my screen. That's my Gumroad. You can go to gumroad.com/Sterling Cooper, or you can go to my website. My URL is just here, sterlingcooper.com, and you can find it there. This is my brand new book, How to Seal a Deal. It's like a tactical guide to getting laid. So it's a bunch of stuff that like I said before, I used to be into pickup back when I was in my 20s, right? And there was a ton of little and I had a few friends back then who went on to be dating coaches as well. And there was a bunch of little tactical information that we all used to use on like when it came to setting up the date, what we would actually do on the date, and then when we'd bring the girl home, that just make it super smooth and would mean we'd consistently have sex from the first date. And I over the last year, I've had a lot of dudes hit me up privately or on Zoom calls or whatever with questions about I did this thing on the date and she didn't go home with me and have sex, or I did this thing and she didn't want to fuck me anymore. What was I doing wrong? And I see a lot of dudes making some really, really basic fundamental mistakes. So what I did is I put this book together, which is right now it's on pre-order right now for only $24 until Monday, and then it goes up to $49 permanently. But so it's on a discount right now. But I wanted to put all this information together in one book so guys can have a kind of blueprint they can follow for how to sort of structure their dates, or their first dates rather, so that it's just if they've spent all this fucking time matching with a girl, getting their Tinder profile right, matching with a girl, going out setting up the date, and they get frustrated. A lot of these younger dudes are getting frustrated, and I think they're just lacking some really basic tactical information. And I'm not talking lines and fucking routines and shit like the old Pete-way stuff. It's really basic stuff teaching them about plausible deniability, teaching them okay, here's how you make a girl comfortable enough to get home. Here's how you give her an excuse to come back to your place. Here's how you make her not feel like a slut whilst she's being a slut.
Right.
So that's what I'm putting out right now, because I've had a bunch of guys ask for it, and so yeah.
Good, man. Sounds good. Cool, man. So yeah, guys, check that out. I'm sure it's going to be very, very helpful. So yeah, man, thanks for getting up early and coming on the stream. It was a good talk. Enjoyed it.
Fantastic, mate. We'll do it again sometime.
Cool, man. Peace out. Bye-bye.